I would like to call to order the City of Menasha Board of Public Works. We have to, roll call, please.
Alderman Nichols. Here. Alderman Taylor. Alderman Krautkramer.
Here.
Alderman Langdon.
Here.
Alderman Keehan. Here. Alderman Zielinski. Here. Alderman Spencer. Here. Alderman Benner.
Thank you very much. First item of business is to approve the minutes from August 3rd, 2015. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Chairperson Coker. I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from the August 3rd, 2015 meeting.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes approved. Several action items tonight, as usual. Action item number 1 is a payment to Yankee General Contractors for the Gilbert Trestle improvements. Director Radke, do you have some information for us?
Yes, this payment is for the progress that has been made on the trestle portion of this project. They have completed all the decking for this, and that's what this payment represents.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the payment to Yankee General Contractors, Gilbert Trestle Improvements, contract number 2014-04, in the amount of $63,405.26, payment number 4.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, you got a question.
Alderman Langdon?
Director Radke, how many, is that the last payment, or how many more do we have?
There will be at least one more payment.
Okay.
The work is actually done now, but some of the work has taken place after this payment was put together.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Seeing none, can we take a vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Action item number 2 is yet another payment, Northeast Asphalt Incorporated, new street construction, reconstruction, concrete curb, gutter, asphalt pavement, storm sewer. Director Radke, do you have any information to share on that?
Yes, this is the city's one large street project for 2015, and this payment includes work for Riverly Court, Broad Street, and a portion of Ida Street. And there will be several payments forthcoming at payment request.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion?
Mr.
Alderman
Chairman,
Taylor?
I'll make a motion to approve payment Northeast Asphalt Incorporated, new street construction and reconstruction, concrete curb and gutter, asphalt pavement, storm sewer, Southfield West / Nature's Way Subdivision Street, Barker Farm 6 Subdivision Streets, Riverlea Court, Broad Street, Ida Street, Manitowoc Street, and Lincoln Street, contract number 2015-01, in the amount of $89,918.07, payment number 4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Zielinski.
Thank you. Mark, which ones are we actually paying for? I know there's not much going on in Ida.
No, they did some preliminary work on Ida for storm sewer.
Okay.
So very little of that. Broad Street, they have started, they've done the excavation. They are now graveling that, but there's none of that cost in this payment request. And then Riverlea Court, they had done the storm sewer and excavation.
They're on time? Everything so far?
Yes.
Good.
Any other discussion? Alderman Taylor?
Director Radke, when will Broad Street 200 block see their curb and gutter poured, and then approximately the asphalt put down?
If it were just up to the contractor in the city, I would say that would be done within the next 2 weeks. But because the railroad is involved, they want to improve their crossing, which is within the project limits. We've been in contact with them since early spring, trying to coordinate this, and that's up in the air right now. When they're going to be in there, because they are utilizing our contractor to do their crossing for the asphalt work, that is best coordinated between the contractor and the railroad, and because they want to have that all done at the same time so there are no extra seams in the pavement. So I'll let you know at the next meeting. Maybe it still will be done in the 2 weeks, but it's hard to get that information from the railroad right now.
Okay. Just to touch on that, I think we need to touch base with our state officials and our federal officials with the railroad. Southern Wisconsin, it took U.S. Congressman Sensenbrenner to help some people with railroad crossing blockings down there. And I think the railroad, I know they're operating under their 1800 laws that make them kings, but they need to be more sensitive, I think, to communities, and I think they need some legislature pressure for that.
And we have obtained the permits for this work in proximity to their crossings as required, so I'm not anticipating any problems, but at the same token, we don't have a firm schedule from them yet.
Thank you. And that's pretty much unacceptable if we started in the spring and now we're almost into the fall. So, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, could we take a roll call vote?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Action item number 3 is a recommendation to eliminate bus loading zone on the north side of Nicolay Boulevard at St. Patrick Church. Director Radke, do you have some info on that, please?
Yeah, I didn't have much prepared for this, but there in the packet is a drawing and a copy of the code section alluding to the bus loading zones. With the closing of Seton Middle School, this bus loading zone is no longer necessary, so I don't see any reason for maintaining it. The police department feels the same way, and so this is what would be necessary to effect that change. We would need direction from the board to direct the city attorney to prepare the necessary ordinance.
Do we have a motion to approve? Alderman Taylor?
Mr. Mayor,
I'll take
going to
that.
call you Mayor. Mayor Kramer. Alderman Chairman Kramer, I'll make a motion for recommendation to eliminate the bus loading zone on the north side of Nicolay Boulevard at St. Patrick's Church, 324 Nicolay Boulevard.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Nichols?
Thank you, Alderman Kramer. I just wanted to say that Seton Middle School has been a good island neighbor and a community member for a great many years, and we're happy to see them, to send them off to their new facility out at the St. Mary's campus, and at the same time we'll miss them here.
Thank you, Alderman Nichols. Any other discussion? Okay, could we take a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Next action item is an application for City of Menasha Deferred Assessment Policy, first edition to Lake Park Heights. Director Radke, is this you as well?
I think this will be more of a team effort among Alderman. Now you've got me calling you an Alderman. Director Stino and Director Kyle and myself. Our code does allow the request to be considered for the city's deferred assessment policy, and this has been done in previous developments. It also has been requested in previous developments, and the city denied that request just due to the existing circumstances at the time and their economic and financial situation. So this request is coming in for the first addition to Lake Park Heights, which is west of Lake Park Heights in the vicinity of the new proposed neighborhood park in Calumet County, north of the Ponds subdivision and development. And this amounts to the infrastructure cost for all of the grading and graveling for the new gravel streets, the utilities, sewer, water, storm sewer, and also for the electric extension out into this area, and includes the engineering, and I think that's about it. So they're looking to be part of their, so they're looking to be included in this 5-year deferral. And that process would require the city to front the money for these infrastructure improvements, and then upon the sale of a lot, we would acquire that portion of that investment would come back to us through at the closing time. So, and then also part of this request is they're asking us to waive the area-wide assessment for the backbone sewer and water system that was put in around the year 2000 to open up the entire east part of this city for development. And then what else, Greg, is the parkland dedication. And the stormwater, a portion of the cost for the stormwater management pond in the ponds subdivision, which does receive stormwater runoff from this area. And then the parkland dedication fees they're asked to be delayed for the second portion of that.
To be collected with the building permits rather than.
Okay. To be collected with the building permits instead of upon plating.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a motion? No? Do we have some discussion? Alderman Nichols?
Yeah, sorry, Greg.
Alderman Nichols, you have the whole. Greg?
So in 2012, the Common Council did approve the application of the deferred assessment policy to this property and also another one owned by Vans Realty and Construction in the vicinity of the Appleton Water Treatment Plant. The numbers were a bit different then and a bit lower, or in fact quite a bit lower than what we're seeing here today. But the city has used this deferred assessment policy as a means of promoting development in the city, and I think almost all of the subdivisions in Calumet County were funded through this program. And so what we're looking at today is that 14.6 acres has assessed value of $2,700 on it, and we're not collecting much, if anything, on taxes from that property today. And if this property is able to be brought into a development state, and upon full development, that property would be worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 to $8 million. So we're looking at quite a increase in our assessed value if we're able to use this policy to incentivize the developer to move forward. They've owned this property for quite some time. It was Jerry Hain, and then he had another development partner who he is no longer with in this area. And actually they were going to proceed with the development of the property. This was probably around maybe 8 years or so ago. And at that time, they were informed that the city wouldn't be able to apply the policy because of our steam plant debt and what we were trying to work through at that time. So they deferred, moving forward with the development, and then, we had the housing crisis, which further delayed things. But now, from what I've been seeing and what I've been hearing, the housing market has picked up quite substantially, and they are looking to move forward with the development of this property. The The numbers that are coming up in conjunction with their estimates for the development peg the infrastructure costs at around $25,000 a lot. And in addition to that, they have about $9,000 a lot invested in land costs, plus some other carrying costs. So we're around that $35,000 price tag, which lots are selling for, but there's no margin in here for them to, be able to realize the benefit of taking on the development. The other point that has been made is that there's sort of an unlevel playing field that was, at least in part, created by the city when we undertook a program to incentivize both Lexington Homes and Cypress Homes to be able to move our property, the Lake Park Villas property, and get that performing so that it would lessen the city's burden with carrying the costs for that land and paying our debt service costs associated with that. So those are kind of the issues that are out there. This would add on, a substantial figure to a borrowing if we had to carry this out. And Director Estino had some concerns about being able to meet those payments just based on the rate of development and so forth. And I did speak with Jerry Hayne today to ask them if they would be willing to sort of put a backstop or guarantee that they would be providing funds in an amount sufficient to cover our borrowing costs on an annual basis, which would translate to them selling at least 5 lots per year. And they are agreeable to that provision, which if we're to move forward, we would then put into a separate sort of development agreement.
Thank you very much, Director Kyle. Alderman Nichols?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it's okay with you, I'd like to ask a few questions before making a motion.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. This kind of caught me off guard in our packet because usually there's a little more information. We got a letter here. But I called Director Kyle today, and he was very helpful, and Director Radke in answering my questions regarding this. The number, first of all, I want to, I think you've both indicated that what this particular developer is asking for is not out of the realm of what we've offered other developers in the past.
That's correct. The difference here is that in some of that territory in Calumet County has these charges for the backbone sewer and water system, and others do not. So we have collected this backbone fee from other developers in the past, including the Jerry Hayne.
Okay. This developer right now is proposing to build 39 homes in this neighborhood. If I'm reading this memo correctly, the infrastructure costs for the project and in engineering that the city would be responsible for is approximately $1 million.
Well, that's correct, although not all of that would be required immediately. So what would be pulled out of that figure would be the final paving and the curb and gutter. And there's a portion of the contingencies and so forth, but that would amount to, what was the mark, about 180,000? So we'd be looking at financing something like 780, I think.
Something like what?
780,000.
Okay.
I'm remembering that.
And then the theory here is that we would be able to recoup that 780,000 through money collected at the time of sale, so through his lot sales.
Correct.
Okay. And Director Sino, regarding the financing, Director Kyle had indicated that you had some concerns regarding that. Could you address those, please?
So the original idea that was presented that I had heard was, and I'm not exactly sure where the 780 comes from, but I'm getting kind of close to it, that we were going to need 925,000. Well, if the city was going to borrow 925,000 and do a deferred assessment for somebody, it basically there's not anything due for the first 5 years, and then after that they pay 1/5 of the total from year 6 to 10. So that was where my concern was, because that would mean the taxpayers in the meantime would be on the hook for that. So it would be a borrowing and we'd have to levy taxes for the difference. So that's when Director Kyle then talked to the developer and said, okay, if we borrowed this money, we would want to make sure that you would be bringing in the funds to pay that debt service off. And that debt service, in round numbers, is about a little over 100,000 each year. Well, if they were going to guarantee that 25,000 for each lot was coming back to the city, because when a lot is sold, that's when those assessments would be paid. They don't get to be carried on the books. Then we'd be capturing as much as we need to pay debt service, at least as much, if not a little more. And then the risk for the council and the citizens goes down by a lot. Now, something could still happen with the housing market and, you know, defaults and all that kind of thing, but having a guarantee of that nature in place really strengthens the project. And then when you look at the $7 to $8 million in value that we'll have at the end, there is some risk involved in getting that.
Yes. So we're looking at investing about 780,000 to gain 7 to 8 million in value.
Yes, and it's an investment that we recoup, so it's not
Yes.
money out of our pocket as long as.
And the developer indicates that he is okay with having a minimum number of lot sales required every year to cover the cost of that financing.
Yeah, that's correct. And he's expecting, you know, to be completely out of there in 5 years, and hopefully sooner than that. So,
Okay. So if I wanted to make the motion to approve and forward to the council this application for the deferred assessment policy, but ask that a minimum requirement for a minimum number of lot sales be required per year as part of the agreement.
I'm just thinking how to phrase that. I mean, you've captured the essence of what we would be doing. I think what we would bring back sort of, so what you'd be doing is sort of tonight saying, yes, we're in agreement on making available the deferred assessment policy. And then I think we could come back with a development agreement that would speak to that issue, and there may be a few other things we'd like to address, and have that come back as a companion.
As part of a developer's agreement,
Yeah,
similar to what we did with Woodlands.
yes.
Okay. Then I will make the motion to recommend to the Common Council this application for the City of Menasha Deferred Assessment Policy, first edition, to Lake Park Heights Winnebago Investments LLC, in the amount of approximately $924,000, and I'm saying that because that's what's here in the motion, in the agenda, with the expectation that a minimum number of lot sales would be required to enable the city to pay the debt incurred by the agreement.
we have a second? We do not have a second, so that means...
Discussion.
Would you like to discuss it? Okay. We have a second and discussion. Alderman Taylor?
Thank you. What happens, Greg, and what's the guarantees if they don't reach their goal of selling these lots? I mean, we can say that this is part of the agreement, but what is the...
We'd have to.
What is our guarantee?
Come up with a default.
I can't hear you.
We would need to come up with some sort of default clause. I'm not sure exactly what that would be. It might have to do with us taking title to the property or something like that.
Okay. Something I look at here with this deferred assessment. This tool was started in the early 80s when we had 13% interest rates and double-digit inflation, and then again in the late 90s, and then again in the late 2008 into 2009. This has always been a tool during very hard financial times to help move forward with development and try to put the hand out there and have a partnership and some aid. And I don't know if I heard that the council did this at another time. I don't think we could put another time on the council. I don't think that's correct, because different times have different financial and positive or minus scenarios with the economy. And just because we did it for somebody else 3 years ago, I don't know that we're held to that at this time. I think the economy's better. The housing market seems to be moving. I think we can capture that by not putting out assistance that we would put out during the harder times, harder financial times. So I wondered if we, need to rework this a little bit and put the city out there for less risk at this time. And I had a question for Director Sino is, by borrowing or putting together this deferred assessment policy, does that at all affect our rating with Moody's?
It doesn't directly get reflected in the rating. There's a couple things Moody's would look at. Number one, can we afford to borrow it? Okay. So I would say with our debt capacity, at the end of 2014, we were at about 70%. A few years back, we were up to 85%. Obviously, our goal is to move down, but what the rating agencies also like to see is development and progress and the strengthening and growth of your tax base. So, $1 million investment, pre-funding, let's say, because it's going to be required to come back, even at the latest, we're talking about the time value of money. We're not talking about the principal itself. And then the plans that it's going to go a lot faster than that is, there's risk. There's no doubt there's risk, but it's a low risk for the $7 to $8 million in property values that we would achieve.
Craig, let's say we took this off the table and didn't give them this deferred assessment. You think they'd walk away from it? I mean, they are developers, and they know that they have to spend money to develop land. That's what they do. And
yeah, I don't know. I mean, they could possibly go back in and redesign the thing to get smaller lots, and try to increase their revenues that way. I don't know.
Well, with this upturn in the economy and in the housing market, I think that we should make some adjustments here and take the city off the hook for some of this. And I don't know exactly where you'd like to do that, but I think we need to and let the developer accept a little more risk. And
some of the highest growth years in the city, as far as new housing starts, were in those good times, and they were financed with our deferred assessment. The Grassy Field subdivision was, a prime example. That thing sold out, I think, in what, 2 years maybe? It went very fast, so.
I understand that, but it was met with some resistance by council members at that time too, saying that, this isn't the downturn that we had, before that.
The other main reason why this policy was created was to provide an incentive for people to annex to our community. And having that assessment policy out there gave them the ability to not have to borrow all those funds, and so therefore they could develop more economically in the city than they could in the town of Harrison or that sort of thing. And that's really was our major reason that we did get the foothold that we did out in Calumet County. And these guys, when they bought the land, they were relying on the fact that, the city had this policy in place and were fully expecting they would be able to use it. Well, circumstances changed here and we weren't able to do it at that time.
But at this time now, we show that the city has great momentum out there with these subdivisions filling up and much more than barren land out there. So I think any developer would want to, say, wow, look at what's happening out there in Menasha, and maybe I want to be part of that. But what I'm saying here is I think we need to have some sort of a clause in this that we need to go back and negotiate about what happens if they're not selling this many lots, and maybe take a little bit, I don't know where you would like to, but I think we need to take a little bit of the deferred, I don't know if it's the backbone of the project or with the different options you were talking about before. So I would like to see some adjustment done on it, and also what happens if they don't sell.
Thank you, Alderman Taylor. Alderman Zelinski?
Thank you. Greg, how does this affect the ponds then?
Well,
We got a lot of home building going on there, and I wasn't in total agreement with the grandiose deal of selling property in the city of Menasha by creating a TIF to sell residential lots. And I remember that he was probably one of the, he wanted to be in on this at that point.
yes, but I don't believe he wanted to buy the whole thing.
Correct, but then we let a minor partner in on that.
But what does
Safer
that have to
homes.
do with this
Well, is
matter?
this some kind of, I hate to say payback or whatever, but you're really pushing this thing because he was in there and then he got excluded from it. And then he mentioned something about the ponds.
Well, of course he's going to mention something about the ponds because he's seen the development agreement. He understands that they're getting an incentive payment of about $18,000 a lot that he's not getting, and it creates an unlevel playing field for him.
Correct. Why, he threw everything at us here. What did you throw back at him? Say, no, we'll do half of it. Did you
Well,
throw any options back at him, or are you
it's-
waiting for the council to do that?
What's on the table is the deferred assessment policy is what he requested, and he requested relief from the extra expense associated with the backbone system and the stormwater, regional stormwater pond.
He doesn't want to delay park fees and all the other
Yeah.
stuff, and I think
But
he just,
again, I mean, he's telling us that that's what he needs to do to get a lot price where he can be competitive.
well, I don't know, but not too long ago, he was building on the other side of the Lake Park. There's a whole subdivision over there. I'm sure they didn't have TIF, or they didn't have the ability, they didn't pay for his infrastructure over there.
No, but the lots are cheaper, the development
I don't
standards
know.
are lower,
I don't
the
know.
lots are smaller.
Well, you were talking just shortly that he's gonna reduce the size of the lots maybe if he doesn't get it.
He didn't say that.
No,
That's
you
a
said you-
concept that I thought, well, you're gonna try to, make your money however you can make it, right?
When do we just say, you're the developer, you take the chance? Man, we're just We
Well-
just don't stop in the city.
And you can say no, and then, you know, let the chips fall where they may. Will it sit there another few years? Possibly. Will he develop it tomorrow? Possibly. I don't know that.
I don't know
But what he's
either.
telling me is what I'm relating to you.
And how does this affect us? We're only gonna sell, I don't know what that set amount of properties we're gonna sell in the city of Menasha on that east side of town. If you sell 30 there and you don't sell 30 in the ponds, how does that affect us?
They are comparable. They're not obviously the same,
Something's gotta give.
but you're right, there is a possible trade-off there. But we're also creating another choice for people who are looking to build a home in Menasha,
I was waiting
for them to
I was
look at.
waiting for that. But if you know, if you're only gonna sell 30 homes, you sell those 30, but you don't sell 30 in the ponds, how does that affect us
Well, then what
financially?
happens the next year when those 30 lots are gone and we don't have that extra lot choice? We're running low on lots. Ponds just opened that other section down there. And, you know, we need to have a lot inventory, and these subdivisions don't develop in, you know, a month's time. We've got to have this
And-
taking place
And it's
over
like
time.
car sales, the incentives go away when things are selling. If things are selling that fast, why are we throwing incentives at it? Because it's there, yes, and they can ask for it, yes.
All right. I'm
Yeah,
not here
I
to
don't know.
argue with you. I'm just telling you what was put before us and
Okay.
why it's put here.
I just think that the time is good now, we don't have to throw incentives at things.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Alderman Benner?
Thank you, Chairman. Greg, a few things. What's the sense of urgency on this at this point?
Well, he would like to have the subdivision develop over the winter months and have the lots available in spring.
Yeah, the reason I was pretty hesitant on this, well, a few reasons, but one of them is that, you know, we kind of have this letter of intent or request, and you talk to them that there could be amendments and there'd be a development agreement. And so personally, I'd like to see a development agreement before it goes to council. And I was wondering if we had time to get that development agreement with the intent of what we're doing, have the attorney review it, and make sure it's really what we want before we start acting on something that we don't even have at this time. And so I wanted to have the discussion when Alderman Nichols made the motion, but that's really what I'd like to see. And I'm a little uncomfortable with, my biggest thing I'm uncomfortable with is waiving the backbone sewer, the stormwater stuff. I'm kind of uncomfortable with that because that's just out-of-pocket expenses that we have to apply into this project that we won't recoup until we get stormwater fees from them sometime down the trail, you know, once houses are there and things like that. So, and I'd like to have some input from our public works director on that part to see what kind of impact that really would have on us. And I think there's more discussion here than what really what's in front of us. And so if there really wasn't a big sense of urgency on this, I'd like to see us get a little bit closer with our document and have a little better dialogue on those items to see exactly what the financial impact is going to be on the parts that he's asking us to waive. The recovery
Timing
dollars.
for that is not,
Pardon?
the timing for putting something like that together is not a problem.
Okay, that's what I'd like to see at this time, and I don't know if I don't want to offend anybody, but if a motion to postpone or maybe even just removing the motion off the table, I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do at this point, but do you have any thoughts on that?
If you want to,
Attorney Captain?
You could make an amendment to bring the contract back to Public Works.
I would make that a friendly amendment to Alderman Nichols' motion.
Second. An amendment to the original motion.
And then I'd like to see some numbers on the forgiveness of of the backbone sewer and water system and the stormwater facilities that he's asking to be waived. So we know exactly what the financial impact of that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Benner. So we have an amendment to the original motion, which is,
The
Clerk,
amendment
on
is
the
to bring back a development agreement to the Board of Public Works.
okay, and that has been seconded by Alderman Taylor.
That's correct.
All right, any more discussion?
Yeah.
Alderman Taylor on the amendment.
Yep. Director Kyle, I appreciate your work in this, and I think every creative negotiations has a middle ground, and I think there's somewhere for both of us to come together and picking up the risk on both sides here. And like I said, if this was 2009 or something, I wouldn't be talking like this, but I think at this point we can minimize our risk somewhat, and also in that agreement to shore up what we can have in there for if he doesn't sell so many lots, which probably I don't think will happen, but it's good to have the language. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, can we take a roll call vote on the amendment?
Motion carried on roll call 7-1.
All right, our last action item is resolution. Oh, did I do that? That was just the amendment, okay. Okay, so we go back and we have to vote on, I don't know what.
Number 4. Ask the clerk to read her motion.
Okay, Clerk, could you please read Alderman? Okay, you got it, all right.
Okay, so.
Thank you.
It was moved by Alderman Nichols, seconded by Alderman Benner, to forward to the Common Council the application for City of Menasha Deferred Assessment Policy, First Edition to Lake Park Heights, Winnebago Investment LLC, Vans Realty and Construction in the amount of approximately $924,000 with expectation and minimum of number of lot sales be required, and to bring a development agreement to back to the Board of Public Works.
Attorney Captain?
I just wanted to mention that the part at the beginning referencing sending it to the Common Council then would not occur because of the amendment. So it would be coming back to the Board of Public Works.
Okay, could we vote on it, or could we ask Alderman Nichols to remove her motion?
Because of the amendment, it doesn't go to council. That was my mistake. Because of an amendment, it goes to the Board of Public Works. Correct.
So do we need to dispose of? No.
We don't
No,
have to
it
dispose.
just becomes all one big motion, and then that development agreement that contains those provisions will come back to the Board of Public Works for its consideration. And then after the Board of Public Works considers it, then they would forward it on, assuming they approve it, they would be forwarding it on to the Common Council at that time.
So we're asking for the application to be sent,
It's just coming back here,
coming back to the Board of Public.
in the form of a development agreement, correct?
Okay. So do we have to vote on that? All right.
That's what the original motion is now.
That's what the original motion is. Wow, you learn something new every day, don't you? Sorry, public.
All right, it's a learning curve for all of us.
We're all teachers.
And we need a second to that, correct? We already have that, so let's vote on it. As amended.
Motion carried on roll call 6-2.
Oh boy, now I believe we are at our last action item. Resolution R3115, acknowledging the review of the City of Menasha 2014 Compliance Maintenance Annual Report under Wisconsin Administrative Code NR 208, introduced by me. Director Eck, can you help us out a little bit with that?
Sure. This is an annual requirement by DNR for cities and other utility districts to report on the condition of their collection system. It's essentially a report card, annual report card for how we are operating and maintaining our sanitary sewer system. Does not include the sanitary sewer treatment plant, just the collection system. And so it's required to have the resolution every year. This is for year 2014 reporting year. And the city did grade out to an A, even though that we did have one sewer bypass that occurred in the month of May in one very isolated area of the city. Despite that, we did maintain an A grade for last year, and so we are asking that this be forwarded to the council for approval.
Okay, do we have a motion? Alderman Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve and send to the council resolution R31-15, acknowledging the review of the City of Menasha 2014 compliance and maintenance annual report under Wisconsin Administration Code NR 208, introduced by Alderman Krautkramer.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Alderman Benner.
I just want to compliment you, Mark. We made big strides in the last several years, and with all of our improvements we made with our sewer system and lift stations and all that, and this is a pretty good upgrade for us. So congratulations.
Thank you, and thanks to the council, because we did spend a lot of money to get there, but it was necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Take a roll call vote, please.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Okay, seeing no other action items, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Amen.
There's always one curveball in.
Broadcasts of the City of Menasha Administration Committee, Board of Public Works, and Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Menasha residents and interested parties can obtain information about these meetings and meeting agendas from the city website, www.cityofmenasha-wi.gov. Expression of opinions regarding City of Menasha issues or about these broadcasts can be made by contacting the Mayor's Office, 920-967-5117. Contacting their city alderman. Contact information appears on the website. Completing the electronic feedback form on the website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.